Hello and welcome to the Fab Show, the show where we explore our fabulous lives. I'm your host this week, Kim O'Neill, and today we're going to be talking about setting yourself free. Let's talk. All right. Hello and welcome, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
So good to have you all here. And I want to say a quick hello to everyone who is joining us live or on the replay today. We love having you with us as well. As we move through the show, let us know in the chat. What are you setting yourself free from right now? We're at the beginning of a new year. Fantastic time to be thinking about what really aligns with who I am today. What serves my highest good? And we love to hear from you. So as we just get going, I'd love to just do a quick little introduction with everyone here today. We'll just quickly go around, and I'd love for each of you to say, just a little bit about who you are, what you do, and where are you located in the world. And I'll start with Albert, who is right there.
Hi, everybody. So I'm a sports mental performance coach, ontological coach, certified meditation trainer, and breathwork facilitator. I'll try to say that again in one sentence, but it's too hard. I'm in Southern California.
Awesome. So good to have you here, Albert.
Thank you.
And Adonica, tell us about you.
Thank you very much, Kim. My name is Adonica Sweet, and I'm a master certified coach, and I absolutely love to work with people to help them with inspiring their own journey in life so they can become their best selves. So I'm happy to be here on the show, and within the context of coaching, I do a ton of different things.
Yeah. And where are you located, Adonica?
Yeah, thank you. I'm in Summerland, British Columbia, Canada.
Woohoo! Love it. Canada in the house. Okay. Brenda, tell everyone about you and where you are.
Hi, I'm a speaker, trainer, a storytelling mentor, a professional storyteller, and a forgiveness expert. And I live in Los Angeles.
Awesome. You guys are doing amazing with these intros. Okay. Haby, I'm so excited to have you here today. Tell everyone about you and where you are.
Yeah, I used to be in Los Angeles. Now I'm in Clearwater, Florida. So I am a strategic digital and event marketer. I've been more in the new healthcare economy space. So direct care and innovative health plans and helping people to really get high value care. And I also have a jewelry line that I'm wearing. Yeah.
I love it. And I'll just share with everyone. I've already told today's panelists, but today's show was originally inspired by Haby and some of what she'll be sharing with us today. And everyone here is an excellent fit for this topic. So I'm really glad to have everyone here. So Haby, why don't we start with you? And what we'll end up doing is I'd love to hear a little bit from everyone as we move through of how you relate to today's topic to give our audience some context before we go, even deeper into how to set ourselves free. So Haby, will you share everyone your story?
Yeah, I'll try to make it quick here, but I had a really, I guess you could say, traumatic experience in my first marriage. And I had to literally run for the hills from that. And it was very insidious because I think there was programming that I sort of was fell victim to, I guess. And it was hard to see the abuse because there was this sort of me trying to be the best wife and, do everything that I can. And until it literally exhausted me and I saw that this is not going to change. And I had to get some help to see that. And literally planned my escape. And I was in San Diego at the time, but planned my escape back to Oakland, where I spent a lot of my time, over 7 years. and had some help from friends and got like a place for a few weeks while like things were set in motion as far as like the divorce getting filed and him getting served and everything. So yeah, so it's just, and what's interesting is that like that experience actually helped not only for me to unpack the programming that I had with like just wanting to be great for everyone else and not being mindful of what was great for me, you know.
Yeah.
It also helped me to set my little sister free from her toxic mom, you know, and
Wow.
get her into a stable environment and be able to like breathe and be a kid and thrive. So that's in kind of in short, but yeah, I wrote an article on Medium and that's what I had shared with Kim, and I'm happy to share it here to inspire you know, anyone watching that you definitely have the power to like just set yourself free and start a new path, you know. And then like that was in 2020 actually when I left. So yeah, 2020 was wild.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
For everybody.
Oh
I
my gosh.
2020 was 2020. Like I got to see like 2020 clearly what's going on here. Yeah.
Okay, so Hobby, thank you. Yeah, you shared a lot of things that we're going to revisit throughout the show. So thank you for that just sort of framing your story in a nutshell of what you experienced. Albert, let's hop over to you. I'd love for you to share a little bit about your story and how you relate to this subject.
Sure. Thank you very much. How I relate to the subject is how we came together. I had created a post, and I've been 9 years and 3 months sober, and I had a stint with drugs and alcohol for about 13 years, and it came to an end when I had cancer. I got cancer, and it was like I beat cancer, I beat drugs and alcohol, and there was it came to the moment of decision of how do I want the rest of my life to be? You know, I already experienced what, you know, the toxic life that I had created. And it was just looking the other way to see what and how. And, you know, a lot of people, you know, come and tell me, say, hey, well, you know, you stopped because you got cancer. I said, no, I stopped because I made a choice. You know, and I remember talking to somebody a long time ago, and he said, you know, how do you stop something? Because the same way you started it, right? You started it and made a choice, and you stopped and you made a choice. Did I try to stop for a long period of time? Yes. A lot of things that happened in my life in those 13 years, you know, and how I see it today is how I made that decision, and life happened for me. It didn't happen to me, as far as having cancer and drugs and alcohol and all that stuff, but it helped me to see a lot of things, how I affected others in a negative way. But at the same time, when I made that decision, how I impacted other people's lives. And not only did I set myself free, but I set a lot of others on the path to their freedom also. So that's...
Ooh. Okay. Albert, you're sharing lots of good nuggets. Both you and Hobby already. This is for both of you. That was awesome. Choice, just all of it. So good. So good. I'm going to hop over to Brenda now. Brenda, will you tell everyone how you relate to this subject? I'll put you in the hot seat.
Yes, well, I really appreciate how courageous everyone is and that you're telling your stories. So setting myself free, I definitely identify with Haby, and you have to change the programming. My father in 1995 shot and killed my mother, and within months moved in with and then married her sister, my aunt. So very important to get out of these relationships. So that's why I'm so glad you did, Haby. Like, because I'm here to share about how it can get worse. And I actually set myself free from the depression and the unconsciousness by first writing my story down. So I got it out of my head and onto the pages so I could witness myself and have so much compassion for myself versus being in my head of, I hate my father, I love my father, I hate, all that stuff. Then I turned it into a one-person show because I was an actress. And in the writing of the characters and actually inhabiting like my father, I had to move him from a one-dimensional being who just did this horrible act to a person who was fully, who didn't have the tools, certainly had undiagnosed mental illness. I was in Brooklyn, the whole, mafia kind of community. And then I got a master's degree in spiritual psychology, where I actually learned not just how to express myself, but how do I feel good about expressing the story so I don't like relive it and plop it on to people. And then I started coaching and teaching what I needed to learn on forgiveness,
Oh my gosh.
And I'll say one other thing I also created. I took my dad to court for wrongful death from a place of self-love versus revenge after I finished my master's in spiritual psychology. And in doing that, I also created a spiritual ceremony where I released him. So it wasn't just a heady thing. I kind of released my anger toward him and embraced that if I hated a part of him, I hated a part of myself, but yet I never had him in my life.
Okay, panelists are dropping so many good nuggets and bombs. Brenda, I definitely would like for you to share more about that, because I think a lot of people are gonna appreciate hearing more about that. Okay, last but so not least, Adonica, will you share how you relate to this subject and why you wanted to be here today?
Yeah, thank you very much, Kim. So this subject is one that's a little bit different than the courageous stories that have been shared already. And I really want to say thank you for sharing those stories, because it's so real and takes a ton to work through those kind of circumstances. And what I'm going to talk a little bit about is the day-to-day setting self free. Each day we come across, thoughts, etc., that come through our minds, and we're given messages from the universe to, do this or do that, or just face things that we seem to be continually to face. So in my circumstance, one of the things that I really notice is the real potential for burnout, with all the stuff that I have going on in life in general, with work, etc. And every day I need to kind of reprogram. So similar to what Haby said, but more on a day-to-day basis, reprogramming how I think about myself, how I think about my wellness, and how I think about the things that are happening around me, for me, and with me.
Yeah.
So that's how I relate to the topic.
It absolutely. Yeah. I mean, today's topic really speaks to all sorts of situations that we could find ourselves dealing with, that we know we got to set ourselves free. Finally, it's finally time, whether it be thought patterns, habits, relationships, whatever it might be at all. It really can speak to a variety of things. So, yeah. And our panelists today, it's clear that you've already done a lot of work to be able to speak to your subject. So we're going to take a quick little break and quick little commercial break, and then we'll be right back to hear from all of today's panelists. Stay right there. All right. Let's begin. Let's move into how did you know that you had to set yourself free, right? Because I think the initial inclination is, oh my goodness, the situation that I'm in, whatever it might be, is uncomfortable, and I so want someone to save me. Can someone else just fix this for me? How did you know when it was time to set yourself free? And I'll just leave it open to whoever wants to answer that right now.
I can jump in. So for me, there was definitely like a slow energy shift where um I thought even though things are not great, um I was still kind of holding on to the programming like, well, I'm like gonna be 34 and we have a house now, and I don't want to just like wait for everything to be perfect, and I just need to trust, and maybe it's time to like have a kid. And then there was like something that happened that day, just this attitude and energy from him that made me like take a step back. And then it kind of built a couple weeks from there, where actually I ended up, he physically put his hands on me and threw me on the ground, and I had to call the cops, like, because it was just like, with everything that had been building, like I just didn't feel safe, and I was hurt, and I couldn't just let it go without any consequence. And so he spent the night in jail. The cops kind of determined that he was the problem. And I at first couldn't. I still was a little bit blinded because it was just such a shock. Because it had mostly been emotional abuse and psychological abuse, but
And that can be harder to even recognize and admit to yourself.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely. But that's the precursor to the physical violence, like. So, and he had threatened me before, and there was one other instance of like him actually putting his hands on me, but there's other ways to be violent without physically assaulting someone, right? So there was definitely a lot of that. And so that was definitely a turning point, but I still I didn't have the strength and the clarity at that point. Like I didn't tell any of my family. I was talking to his family first about it. And then slowly I started to open up to close friends. And then I got to see the wheel of like power and control, like in abuse.
Okay.
And that was a friend of a friend. Actually my really good friend's cousin who still has a nonprofit organization helping victims of intimate partner violence, and I started to see like, oh, this is following a pattern. Like that's the pattern. That's what's happening.
Yeah.
That's what's been happening here. And so I had to open myself up to the possibility that, I don't have all the answers, but
Okay.
something is calling me to like actually see that this isn't right. Like this has been going on for a while, and I've kind of shrunk myself and made myself to accommodate something that isn't really serving me,
Yeah.
And yeah, then kind of like the floodgates opened, and I was in therapy, and I was talking to my therapist, and she did point me to some information and books, and I discovered I don't remember how I discovered, I think through a friend, this psychologist on YouTube talking about narcissistic abuse. And so it just started to kind of come together, and I really started to unpack what had been going on.
Yeah.
And I had this circle of support, my therapist, who was a psychologist, this psychologist that I never met, that I was watching her videos on YouTube, my friends, a couple of friends, and it's including that one that my best friend's cousin who had that organization, and also kind of getting in tune with my conscious self, like deep within, and
Mm,
learning to trust that,
yeah.
because there was something that was kind of warning me from a long time ago that I ignored, because of the
Yeah.
programming. So,
Haby, what I hear is reaching a tolerance level and being able to be honest with yourself that something needed to change.
mhm,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Albert, what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying, Kim. With myself, there was a certain point that, like, I knew I was going to get out of drugs and alcohol. I just didn't know how. And I started seeing the ripple effect on the marriage, on my kids, my work. I also saw, and this kind of played into the law of attraction, but in a negative way. So everywhere where I went, people were doing drugs, and it was readily available. And I know Brenda and Haby mentioned programming, and when I started looking at that, like, okay, what's the root cause of all this? And I started looking further back, and I saw what I was exposed to as a kid. And not only what I was exposed to as a kid, but even in my teenage years in junior high school, the other people that I was exposed to, and it was just like, it started to come, and it started way back. So it was just feelings that I was oppressing, suppressing, and just didn't know. I didn't have the tools. I didn't have the tools to understand and to get out of it until, but like I said, I knew at some point I was going to get out of it, because I started looking at it and deeper, even while I was in it, even at the times that I said I was going to stop and I went to go buy some more. I went to go buy some more, and feeling the feelings of shame and guilt and that pattern and that repetitive. And I could tell you how my Monday through Sunday went, and what days were high and what days were low. And all of a sudden Friday morning, I had that dopamine hit when I woke up in the morning, because my body already knew what it was going to go do. It was like, there's a book out there, The Body Keeps a Score. And most definitely it knew what it was going to do.
Yeah.
Until it stopped. Thank God I did.
Wow.
I have something to share too after.
Yeah, go right ahead.
There were two moments for me that happened that I realized that I had an awakening, that things had to change, because I was so filled with shame, felt like damaged goods because of what happened in my family, just wanted to hide. And but I was in acting class, and I was hiding behind the characters I would play. But nobody knew what I had lived through except my one friend, and we were going out to get something to eat after class. And I was so in my pain, I didn't realize that I started talking to him about how badly I wanted to kill myself and be with my mother.
Mm.
And, it was just by reality. And he heard it, and he said, if you take your own life, you won't be with your mother. And for whatever reason, that all of a sudden I moved from fantasizing about how I just want to go to, oh my God, well, then why am I going to do that? So that was one moment that really turned things around for me. And I was like, well, how can I thrive then and make her proud of me? Then the other thing was I was still hiding. Oh, so filled with shame. It's part of why I teach storytelling with the healing tools too. But I was writing poetry late at night, kind of just expressing what I was going through. They were very dark. They were very sexual. They were all these angry things that Brenda, was not expressing on the outside, because I was, the good girl or whatever role I had in my family. And I would read them and be so compassionate for myself. And at that same time, I had a direct experience with God, I suppose. I didn't know if it was my mother. I thought it was my mother at the time. And I just had an inner guidance that I needed to put my story on stage in this 100-person top acting class in LA. I did not want to. Outwardly, I was like, no, but I requested it just to be seen. And the exercise was about being real. And I put it up. It was I didn't expect to have a one-person show at that time. I just wanted to share and say who I was. It was probably like 15 minutes. My show is now an hour. And I got a 10-minute standing ovation from my peers. And there were about 3 people who came up to me afterwards and said that something I shared helped them to like forgive their father who left when they were in high school. It's like it didn't have to do with the murder. It had to do with just the humanity, love, loss, betrayal. And at that time, my work was not about forgiveness. It was literally like, will I ever be able to love and trust myself again? And so those were the moments. It was that moment of following that, having someone else witness back to me what I was saying. So not isolating, which is what we want to do when we're in this place. And then the second thing was following that inner spark that was like, tell your story. There you go.
Yeah. Okay. So, and we've got a fantastic comment on screen. Yes. Thank you for sharing all that, Teresa. I absolutely, our audience is definitely relating to this subject. I wanted to share a few comments. We have Gloria saying here, how wonderful that you decided to put yourself first, Haby, and take control or take action. I think that relates to a lot of your stories, is really recognizing, wait a second, I have to do something to care for me, right? My actions matter. And we have Skip saying, sounds like setting yourself free starts as an inside job. Courage panel, absolutely. And Tamara also saying, yes, our lives give us opportunities to make choices. What we do with these choices can truly set us free. And love all of your comments. Teresa was also saying there are so many things that happen behind closed doors. It's inspiring when people get help and bring things to the light. And I want everyone to know today, I know today's subject is maybe a little heavier, but that's because it's recognizing and not being in denial of that heaviness, that darkness that might be around, and saying, wait a second, I'm someone, I can do something about this so I can get back to that space of light. That's what I see, and the significance that I see coming through this topic and how our audience is relating to it. We're going to take another short commercial break and then, of course, come back and hear more from today's inspiring panelists. We'll be right back. All right. Brenda, you were just talking about your one-woman show, and I just want to share a little snippet of that with everyone here today. So we're going to take a look at that.
I can't get close to anyone. I was filled with self-loathing and shame. Wasn't I damaged goods because of my parents? How could I ever trust again? I trusted my father, and look what happened. I poured my pain and my questions out of my head and my body onto the pages of my journal during my sleepless night. I wrote 100 poems in 30 days. I went to shamans and healers and therapists and acupuncturists. I got a 2-year master's degree in spiritual psychology. I started writing my story and sharing it. And something happened.
Awesome, Brenda. Thank you for sharing a portion of that with us. Adonica, I'd love to hear your thoughts on, really like taking that first step of saying, I'm going to choose to set myself free. I'm going to choose to do something about this situation in my life that no longer serves my highest good. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. It's interesting because as I was listening to the stories, I was kind of recounting some of the old messages and patterns that I was seeing in my life, where the biggest pattern that I saw was the people pleasing. And there's so many times when the universe gave me the message that, yeah, this is people pleasing. You can stand up on your own. You can do that. And yet I never took the step. And it took me really a lot of self-awareness to start to see those patterns instead of just saying, yeah, that's just a part of my past. And I honestly would say that self-awareness was my first real step, and really taking the time to look at that and forgive as going along. Like as Brenda talked about, forgiveness is huge. All the choices that I made in the past didn't have to define my future.
That is so key.
And I just, when I started to look at myself, it wasn't a set time when I said, I need to stop people pleasing. It's been a journey because the people pleasing still creeps in. I still want others to be happy around me. I still want others to have their say, and to and I still have times where I will make myself smaller so others can be heard. And I look at that, and now I'm more and more being more conscious of when I'm starting to do that and why I'm doing that, and shifting it to doing it in a way that still has me be me and not the people pleaser. Just to actually say, I'm doing this because I want you to be included. And that's what I'm saying to myself. I want others to be included.
Oh my gosh, Adonica, I love that. Just like it starts with the most minor of step of starting to recognize that pattern and having that self-awareness. And we're going to give it one of these.
That's cool.
And I really want to give it a standing ovation for everybody here and everybody who's watching today. I mean, just that first step alone can be the hardest, right?
Absolutely. It's ongoing.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. Okay, we're going to take another look at one of our fabulous panelists today and continue the conversation. Here's a little look at Albert.
And everybody, it's Albert Duarte, ontological life coach, meditation trainer, and breathwork facilitator, coming to you on this beautiful Thanksgiving morning. It's going to be raw, it's going to be real, with a message of hope and inspiration. And it's a day of thanks, and we're going to look at a few things. Over the years, I've had some very good times and grateful things that have happened to me in my life, and then there's some not so grateful, but overall, I'm grateful for the good and the bad. And that's the challenge, is that some of us don't look at it that way. We're just, if everything was good, where would we be? What would happen? Where would our lives be if we didn't experience the bad? I experienced cancer, drugs, alcohol. Where would I be without that? I might not be here today. Sounds pretty crazy, doesn't it? Because without that adversity that I didn't overcome, what it gave me is also the fortitude and to look into myself a different way, to be able to share a lot of my experiences with the people that are going through it also.
Albert. Okay, so I just first have to say we kind of jumped ahead, right? We went from when you're at the very, very beginning and you're just starting to recognize and go, oh my goodness, I see this pattern in my life, something I can do something about, right? And now we're jumping ahead. Remember, we're in a 1-hour show, right? I'm trying to cover a lot here. And we're jumping ahead now to getting to that space where you can say, this may not have been fun, but I can find some appreciation and value in this. I'd love for you to elaborate and say more about that.
Yeah. After looking at everything, I noticed First and foremost, I haven't seen that video in a long time. And then right now, as I'm listening to it, I look at my journey that I had to go through the darkness. You know, and there's a quote out there, you got to go through the darkness to get to the light. And now I appreciate everything because it, like I said earlier, it helped me unfold and unpack a lot of things within myself, a lot of blind spots and programming from years and years and years that now is helping others. And that's where I really see the fulfillment and the impact of it, of being where I went to. And I have a community of people that are behind me with this whole process. It's just not me. I play softball. A lot of the guys behind me are like, "Hey, you're never going to drink on our watch," and they look at me and say, "Hey, you know, I'm glad that you overcame something, so that also allows me to overcome all this stuff."
Yeah.
And of course, there's possibility for everything and everybody.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Anybody else here would like to speak to, being able to see your situation from a new light as you have chosen to be courageous, take those steps and move through it and beyond it, and then be able to look back and see things maybe a little differently now?
Yeah, I'll speak to that. So I help people turn their big, brutal stories into presentations that can help other people, because my message is about forgiveness, but other people have dealt with, drug addiction, suicides in their family, suicide attempts, horrible sexual abuse, things like that. And so I feel really grateful. It's two-part on that, because I leave more of a legacy, because I'm helping people get out of their shame and have success, help other people. And then for me, just having told my story on so many stages all over the years, and working with, presenting for youth at risk, domestic violence communities, women prisoners. I think for me, I did a workshop. I did a bit of my show and a workshop for youth at risk in Hawaii. And this 8-year-old girl came up to me after, when we were going around and saying, "How were people touched?" And she was like, "I realized I could forgive my father for leaving my mom and me. It wasn't about me." Like, that's me, is leaving my legacy. Like, it's self-expression for me, but then it's all the stories I've heard over the years. One person had a brother in the 80s who died of AIDS, and something in my story, which is not about that, helped her to bring her love for her brother alive instead of hiding things. So that's, for me, looking back, saying, I'm so glad that I was an actress at the time this happened. I'm so glad I was in that class that helped me bring it to light. And I'm so glad that going for my master's in spiritual psychology to help myself gave me the tools to help other people. But it's like, after.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually thank you for sharing all of that, Brenda. Awesome. I want to jump to you next, Haby, but we're actually going to take a moment to recognize all of those who have been with us but may no longer be with us physically. And we're going to take a moment for our Purple Hearts Club. We'll be right back. So sending lots of love and Purple Hearts to our Purple Hearts Club. And Haby, I'd love to know from your experience, where are you today in terms of being able to look back on the situation that you were in and setting yourself free, and how do you view it now?
Yeah, I think it was definitely an experience to break through to myself, to my true self and being, and not being so attached to like these sort of outside measures of success, right? Like it was like things were like check boxes, right? Okay, like degree, like career, like okay, start a business, okay, marriage, okay, like doing all the things and just so wrapped in the doing and not really being deep within myself and knowing and caring and loving myself so that I can find an equal partner. It was more about like just more in the ego, more of like how it looked, and um doing all the things that supposedly supposed to make you happy and feel good, right? And so it helped me to break through all of that, all of those more like superficial things, to deeply know and love myself and get back to myself and who am I and what do I want and what am I here for,
Yeah.
And like I spent time in Hawaii to like just like restore and like rejuvenate and like rest and like
Good for
try to
you.
find my way again. And then like I did not expect um what then took place to take place, but it did. And I met my current husband there, and it was like just smooth sailing and easy, and
Yeah.
not that there's not like challenges, but nothing like the battle it was before.
Right.
Like it's like I could be me, and I was embraced for that, and I had the tools, like I said, to help my sister, and navigate that, and she absolutely needed my help. Well, she's a minor, so there's no way that she could have gotten out of that, like just months and months of homelessness and not just neglect and not being cared for and not being safe, like, so I think it's those are the two biggest things that I think of, like me unlocking the true being and love and what really matters, and not these like symbols of success, and being in a position to um, set my sister free, which she could not
Yeah.
have without
That's
me. I think.
Yeah, huge kudos to you, Hobby, for being able to extend that hand to her and helping her out. And what you said is such, I think, very relatable. That whenever we go through something very challenging and requires a lot from us to change the situation around, we find that, wow, I kind of have a new identity. I've expanded upon myself. I've grown, and now I even have a deeper understanding of what really matters to me today. And that's powerful. And that kind of stuff we don't necessarily see at the beginning, right? Because at the beginning, it's like, no, it's about being where you are and going through it and doing all the stuff. And then eventually you get to that space where you can look back and go, wow, look what all has happened and unfolded and shifted. Who else would like to speak to that? Of just like learning? Yeah, Adonica, please.
Yeah. The other thing that really struck me as a few of you are speaking is we don't do this alone either. So whether we're seeking help from outside sources or whether it's loved ones, family members, etc. I know for myself, my my husband now, because my first husband was not very nice either, it has made a real difference in just who I'm surrounding myself with. I entered a new career. I'm a coach now, and the individuals I surround myself with coaching are have made a difference in my life. And I can't say enough about my husband because of the fact that he allowed me to be me, and he would ask me questions. And I'm like, why are you doing that? When he noticed that I was doing the people pleasing thing. And it helped me to see and become more aware. And now, as a coach, I can help people with that by providing a space that is safe. I have had clients tell me, I've never told anyone this before. And that's really powerful because they can start to be real with themselves when they can say it out loud and really share their story and start to see their story as again something that is in their past and doesn't have to define their future. And it brings me so much joy, so much bliss to see people thrive.
Yeah.
And each time they become more and more aware, really helps with that. And one of the things that has really made me think about my life a little bit differently is a couple of years ago, I was introduced to something called the Being Profile, which is an ontological assessment. And it really just had me take a look at words like awareness, like integrity, and like effectiveness. And what does that actually mean? How do I see those things playing a role in my life amongst love and peace of mind? And so it's just, I just keep looking at life from a variety of different angles. And this is what I help others do as well. And it's a joy. It's a journey, and it's a joy.
Awesome. Albert, I think you have something to add to that. I'm sensing it.
Yeah. So I see. When she said ontological, I mean, we've been to the same place, and it also everything that I've experienced. I get I've looked at it from the different points of view, and a lot of the times we struggle to do that. A lot of the times, like they say, that the fish doesn't know it's in water until it's out of the water, and we struggle because we're just not looking at all the different possibilities of number one, taking responsibility with with creating that awareness. And when you get to really step out and number one, forgive yourself, and that causes a chain reaction of not, again, like I said, freeing yourself, but also freeing everybody else. You'll reach this level of humility and again, freeness. It's overall it's liberating, and it's and I welcome everybody to step out into it. I know it's a process, and my process took over 13 years, and I'm still evolving. And again, I'm so grateful for it, because if that didn't happen, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be here speaking on this panel today, and I'm so grateful for this.
I want to celebrate all of you today and for how far you've come in your own journey, and just, it's so key. And of course, this goes to our audience today as well. Make sure you're celebrating yourself for all those little things, right? Even just that first step, recognizing, wait a second, oh, there's this thing happening, and I didn't realize that this was going on in my life, or that this habit or this pattern was impacting me the way it was, right? Like, you get to celebrate that. Oh my gosh, thank goodness. Good job. You now notice it. And then what's the next step? Okay, what am I going to do about it? I love everything you guys are saying. We're really trying to kind of covering the whole experience of setting yourself free from the very beginning to the ending space. We're nearing the end of today's conversation, and I'm debating where to go right now. We tend to talk about legacy in this show, and I've heard a few of you bring it up today, and I'd love to just add a few more thoughts on how you perceive your experience of setting yourself free being related to the legacy that you are creating for yourself that you will one day leave behind. Brenda, please jump in.
Yeah, because I wanted to say something after Albert spoke, and it can finish up with this. I just wanted to mention that I was so surprised that when I thought I had to forgive my father, I first had to forgive myself for trusting him and all this other stuff. Like, I feel like we can't forgive. Like, we can love to the amount that we love ourselves. Same thing with forgiveness. We only forgive to the amount that we forgive ourselves. So I feel like in forgiving myself and knowing I did the best I could, letting go of the forgiveness, letting go of the anger inside of me so it doesn't hurt me, is where the beginning of me being able to leave a legacy came from. Because once I forgave that anger that I was holding inside me, once I gave over the power I let my father have toward me, I was able to create my one-woman show. I was able to create a loving relationship. I was able to create a family, but while I held on to that, I couldn't. So I feel like that opens everything up.
Oh my goodness. I wanted to put that into a little nugget, and I'm just going to play this little video clip. Anything that resonated with you right now, anything at all, do this. Write that down. You don't forget it. Save it. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Brenda, absolutely. It's like what we see outside. It's like, wait a second. We always want to check in with ourselves. Okay, wait. Where's that going on within me? If I have to forgive them, wait a second. Do I need to forgive myself? I'm feeling angry at them. Where am I angry at myself? Yeah. And that can be a really hard part. Like, that could even be a stopping point for a lot of people. No, I'm not going to go there. And then, but what do? Then we can't set ourselves free, right? We don't get to that next place. Yeah. Who else would like to add as we're kind of doing final thoughts in these last few minutes here. So just so everyone knows, who else would like to add to that?
I'll say something on that.
Yeah.
What's coming up for me right now is like everybody is a mirror, at that certain point. The challenge and the hardest part of that is accepting how we are that mirror at that time. And that's when you get to see that, because we're looking at that other person, or we're looking at the situation. And, I went through a lot of stuff during those 13 years, being arrested 4 times. And I think I shared this with Kim. I was like,
yeah,
I'm hanging out with a bunch of, and I call them, losers. And I'm saying, hey, wait a minute. I'm riding the same bus they are. Let's start with responsibility and claiming it, and being responsible for your own actions.
Yeah. I've also found that, like, sometimes, like, because that mirror concept, right? Kind of what I was just saying a second ago, can really trip people up. And so sometimes what I found is it's not necessarily like, okay, what they're doing to me, do I do that to other people? I've found that that's not necessarily the case, but you might want to say, wait a second, what they're doing to me, how am I doing that to myself? In what way have I been doing that to myself, right? And go, whoa, I would never think to treat another person this way, but oh my goodness, I've been doing this to myself. That's not okay, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Adonica.
I want to add to that. And I think it's about being able to look in that mirror, like really look and be open to seeing what's there and accepting what's there, knowing that we have, and embracing the fact that we have the power to change if we don't like what we're looking at.
Yeah.
And to get to the point of being able to look in that mirror and say, I love you, is a very challenging journey. And I think what that really comes from, or the ability to do that, is the ability to be able to cultivate belonging from within connection to oneself and safety from within, and then being able to do that and ask for those things outside of ourselves as well. And I think that takes a lot of courage, and that's what I've heard has happened in this room.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. And we are
Can I just quickly say
please.
the final thought? Yeah, thank you all for being here and sharing your stories. I think that having that breakthrough, and even though you might not know what's on the other side, but having the courage to take that initial step is so important, because like, it ends up being even better than what you imagined, and like I'm here now, and I'm a mom, and I have a baby boy who's going to be 9 months tomorrow, and in a loving, trusting relationship where I feel safe, I can be me, and I can have this legacy and pass it, to my children, my sister, so that they can be better. And it's like us being our best selves does so much more than just having having a fulfilling life, but it allows other people to get there too. And that's like the heart imprint that you leave. And I think that's legacy.
Beautiful. Thank you, Haby. And congratulations. I love that you were able to share with us kind of this like full circle experience that you've had and where you are today. So thank you. And I am just going to say thank you to all of you for being with us today. Thank you for sharing your thoughts and your feedback in the comments. I'm just going to say, remember that every day is always a new day, and we always get to make new choices, and you matter. And I'm just kind of summarizing what everyone has said here today. And remember that you also can choose to set yourself free from whatever it is that no longer serves your highest good. We are going to close, and I'm going to lighten the mood as we close out with a quick little video highlighting one of today's national days that is today, and we're going to close out. But I want you to remember that you are fabulous. We'll see you next week.